So today's video I'm going to be doing a review here of The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, the HD remaster, and I'm calling it a remaster because it's not a full on 100% remake, but it does add enough, or not even just add, update enough features to make the game refreshing, essentially. It does improve it to make it a game worth buying, I feel, for the full price or near full price. I'm going to explain why with my rating system I do. So first of all, I'd like to say I kind of give the game for the HD uh, remastered version here a 9 out of 10. I'm going to go into details as to why. I'm going to actually start with the hardest part, which is graphics, to explain, you know, details as to what graphics uh, have improved, excuse me, and what the improvements have been. So actually as someone who actually played the Wii version and own it still, and I can even go back and still play on even the Wii U. I have to tell you the main issue with the Wii version or the original Skyward Sword is the what caused a lot of the issues, I think, in my opinion, is the lighting. And why I say that is it made in certain scenes or areas with textures and things, they made the boss characters, certain things like that. I'm trying to do this spoiler free. And even certain things like the environment not up to par what they could have been or what they were even going for, I feel, with Nintendo. And whoever, every team and everyone that's working on the Zelda company, the Zelda portion of the company, like when you look here at this, was not as it's not necessarily just about vibrant. It was like this. See how this looks somewhat like stone? It looked more like clay. If I can give a description to give it, like it didn't really necessarily look like stone. It looked. If I could give a description, like comparing it to other Zelda games, it looked like Twilight Princess was trying to be more Wind Waker. Everything was trying to be too cartoony, and any bosses looked like they're trying to be serious or anything, or any characters were trying to be serious. They still had a little bit too much Wind Waker in them, or it was all super cartoony, not frightening in any way, shape, or form. It just took you out of the game. Even that's kind of how me and other people felt. This Twilight Princess and Majora's Mask even were such dark games. Even Ocarina of Time had some darker bosses. Right, and even older Zelda games, like 2D ones, had some darker bosses. This game, it looked like they tried to have darker bosses, but they didn't have. They had some wrong, and I figured out was the lighting. And just the way they portrayed their bosses, and the designs were kind of interesting, but it just made certain bosses look, or actually almost all the bosses look mismatched with the game, like they shouldn't be in the game, and it's kind of strange. And in this game, when I've been playing it through so far, fighting bosses and things, they actually look better, and the environment itself also looks better. A lot more scenes and things now, and that's because they fixed lighting. I think they just updated it, so that changed, in my opinion, the characters, background, graphics, things like that, and just the graphics in general. I would give it from like a 6 up to like an 8 or 9. I would say an 8 just to be fair. because it is much better, especially um, considering this is always run at 60 frames. It's just other things that affected the game's performance, whether it be the system, controls, or whatever. I'll get into that later. How people feel about it. I'd say an 8 is a fair point. So from like a 5 to an 8, that's an improvement. And this is out of a 10 total for the rating system. And the previous version, the Switch version compared to the previous one on the Wii. The Wii, I kind of gave it like a 6. Honestly, it was, in my opinion, one of the worst main launch title Zeldas ever released. Alright, so let's see here. Alright, we've covered graphics, which overall that has been improved. And just so everyone understands here what I'm playing my game, I'm playing it on a 4K monitor with 1 millisecond delay. Okay. And it looks pretty good to me. And not that it's actually working in the full 4K spectrum and everything, it's probably going more like 1080p, 60 frames per second, but still, it still looks pretty nice. And so the next part I want to cover is sound. I'd say sound is about the same. Sound has always been pretty neat and good for the Zelda games. Then with this one, more of a orchestral kind of arrangement for this Zelda series, with a choir kind of approach to it too. You know, orchestral choir and all that. So, so they kind of did more stuff with the music in the sense of, I think if I remember correctly, they also had actually hired and kind of green screened a ballet performer or something. So yeah, this one, and that's who does the part of your little tutorial character here, B. But yeah, this game's kind of neat for that kind of a little fun fact too. There's stuff like that, but yeah, the sound is kind of what I'm getting to in this section, and it's actually very it's very neat. You can hear with the ambience and noise in the background, you hear birds, water, hear some of these guys crawling around. Swings of the sword. Interactions. They always do a pretty good job on this. So the sound, again, I kind of get around the graphics like an 8 or 9. They always keep that right along with that. Because they're trying to create like a whole different kind of space or world with the Zelda, so. Alright, and then the next part I want to talk about here is kind of goes hand in hand here with a bunch of things, but I'm going to kind of give a spoiler-free version of other stuff. But the part I'm talking about here now is story. And honestly, this story with what it is and everything, it's a, honestly, for what it is, and it's Zelda, it kind of is a 10 out of 10 for the story. Like, Zelda Skyward Sword explains and sets up everything for the entirety of the Zelda series perfectly. have an argument against it. It does development with characters and everything the way it needs to do. The development. You'll even notice things with bosses and other stuff. Everything works great for that. And that's me trying to do a spoiler-free version. If I did a spoiler version, the video would probably be a lot longer. And that's for both. Honestly, it's the same score. It's a 10/10 for story for both the Switch HD version here and the original Wii version. And the gameplay is the final part I want to go into, which is kind of that main important part for the performance, which it's always been 60 frames per second. It's just I kind of want to talk about the main difference in controls here. Is what really sells this version. The controls for the original Wii version was very, very terrible and bad. It was always a suffering kind of experience. When they released a digital version for the Wii U, it was a little better, and I played that from time to time on the Wii U, and that brought it from like a 2 rating up to a 5. And that's still kind of bad, and the graphics didn't improve either, because it's just a digital version of the same thing. Just you had a better controller, which was the Wii Remote Plus with a nunchuck, whereas Skyward Sword on the Wii version, what you had to have was a Wii Remote with a motion sensor plus. You had to attach to the controller with kind of like a rubber covering. And you also had to use a nunchuck to attach to the end of that. So you had this like bigger Wii Remote basically that allowed you to utilize the Wii Motion Sensor, Plus usage to kind of like do what I'm doing here at the control stick. And you use the nunchuck to move around, which is a separate controller attachment. It kind of acts as like your control stick. Had your like Z button and your C button on it. It was a very interesting controller at the time. If anyone still knows what I'm talking about, which I'm pretty sure people do. But another thing, yeah, so that game never really got above a 5 as far as controls, to be fair. But now with this game, with the options of controls, you see how easy it was to do all that, which that was just very simple button maneuvers here. These are just some options you have. And that's with my Pro controller here. You can use controllers now, and that's really cool. You can use button use. You can switch to use motion controls just by using Joy-Cons. I can use partial for aiming, or the camera. For motion controls with the camera. If I want to look around, I just hold the left bumper here, which is right stick to help look around too. If I need to, I can still guard. Pull items. If I want to thrust my sword, I just press down on the right trigger, which is what I also used to. I just noticed he's kind of like, oh, don't hurt me. It's interesting. I thought he was doing that. Oh, okay. Oh no, he's just, okay, never mind, just doing his thing. You pull out this item eventually when you get it in the game. Um, yeah, that's basically that brought the control situation from a 5 to a 9, in my opinion. Because I don't really, as far as the controls go, there's always kind of way you can improve something. You could basically add more options for controls and stuff. Like, yeah, I think the fact is, they're not the perfect controls or anything for everyone, but it's much better. It's great. I think they made a huge improvement with all of this. Um, and yeah, people can go back and play this for many years now because of this version of the game. And I think it kind of is. If you're going to play a Zelda game, this is one of the must-have play Zelda games. So again, this is kind of why, based on what I've talked about here, this game is a 9 out of 10 now, and you must have it, this version of the game, because it's basically it's gonna give you an origin point of, you know, how Zelda came to be Zelda, how Link came to be Link, and you know where their enemies came from, where their story really began, their endless string of legends and all that stuff. Give you an idea of, you know, the fight over the Triforce and all that stuff. Yeah, so if you found this interesting, please leave a like, and if you want more videos, let me know what kind you want, and please subscribe. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.